So yeah, I will go ahead and share my screen. And hi everyone, welcome to our last breakout. And tell me if you can't see what my screen is here, but I'm going to go into presentation mode. And of course, it's not wanting to. There we go. All right. There we go. Can everyone see my screen?
Yes.
I think so. Cool. All right. So I'm Beth Bourg. I actually just joined a company, Appify. So that's why you see Appify branded slides on here. I like the design. It's a fun kind of lots of pink and purple. I was joking that my third grade self would love the company colors. Yeah, I just joined the company about a month ago as their director of product marketing. But I've been in marketing for 20 years in tech. And so I just thought it would be a really fun breakout session to kind of go through like a brief little bit about my career path and kind of where I've gone and where I've been, where my path has taken me, but also just to kind of go into a little bit about those marketing areas of focus, because I think especially when you're starting out, there's so many different kind of specialty areas of marketing that are often, you don't get a chance to dabble in if you are interested, or maybe areas that would really be a great fit for skill sets and things like that. So that's what I want to do in our activity today. And then we'll have a kind of a discussion about it. I want to keep this as interactive as possible and give people a chance to ask questions along the way. Never feel free or feel free to interrupt me. Never feel bad along the way, and ask anything you want. I want this to be interactive. And so I want to start first with just doing a quick round of introductions for everyone here. So I'll ask, maybe you can start, my handler person, I think, maybe you can start, but just to introduce yourself, so your name, what your major is, what are your interests outside of school, and the first job you ever had.
Okay, so hi, my name is Nikita. I'm a marketing major. My interests are, I would say, in terms of marketing, I like digital marketing, and I think that's the future of what our world is going towards. I think I also like design, just personally. I like fashion design. And the first job I ever had was an internship at an ad agency. Yeah.
Cool. And I am not able to see everyone else, but who wants to go next?
I could go next. My name's Colton. I'm a marketing major. Some interest, like in terms of industry, is like tech or tourism. The first job I ever had was a cashier at my family's restaurant.
Nice.
I can go. My name's Brittany Lundberg. I'm a marketing major and design minor. And so I'm really interested in digital marketing and design using Adobe Illustrator and whatnot. And the first job I ever had was for a retail store.
Cool. I think we had another Brittany in the group too. You want to go next?
Yeah, sure. My name is Brittany Tonneson. I'm a sophomore marketing major, currently trying to add a legal studies minor. I think my interests just outside of school, like I'm definitely interested in social media, stuff like that. The first job I ever had was being a basketball referee. So
Nice. Who else do we have on the session?
I think that would be everyone.
Oh, we got everyone? All right. This kind of leads into my next thing, but I went to UC Santa Cruz. I studied film and digital media with a production emphasis. And so I was lucky enough to make like a couple of really short films, short fad student films. I think we have some stuff in the chat, but I'm not able to see it. So if you need to interrupt me for any reason, feel free to do so. My interests outside of school are Also very much into design and fashion, food and wine, and travel when we can do that again, as well as I took up a hobby a few years ago, horseback riding, trying to get back into that very soon. And the first job I ever had, I sold vegetables off of a truck in the parking lot of Home Depot. And so it was, we had a family friend who would go get them from like a farmer's market super early in the morning, and then we would bring them to where I grew up in the East Bay of California and sold them out of a truck, and I helped bag and like count money and everything. And it was an interesting job. I also like did babysitting and things like that. But I also, before I went into marketing, I spent 5 years in retail. I think anyone who's worked in retail or restaurants, customer service, you learn a lot about that, and you learn a lot about what makes people tick. So there's ways to kind of bring in that experience into what you do next. And so I always kind of look at that time as I spent a lot of time at the mall the summers of high school and college. That's where I worked most of it. But I've had 10 tech jobs in 20 years. And I've worked as a consultant, I've worked for startups, I've worked for really small companies, also mid-market and enterprise. So one of you said you liked using Adobe Illustrator. I spent 7 years of my career at Adobe, actually. That's where I honed in a lot of my product marketing skills and learned a lot about working with a bigger team and kind of areas of focus. I mean, on my team at Adobe, there were people that just focused on the product trial or the pricing of how we priced our products for just one single product at Adobe or like a group of products. And so it gets very granular very quickly. But I've also worked for companies where I was a team of one and did everything myself. So my work has taken me to the East Coast and back. So I moved to New York. I spent a lot of time in New York, worked in Atlanta, Georgia, worked in New Jersey, and even Philadelphia for a bit. I've been interviewed for a company in Massachusetts. And then I came back here and have been in San Francisco for the last 10 years. In that time, I've worked for startups and Adobe as well. So the first job I ever had was a company that had been publicly traded on NASDAQ and then went through Chapter 11 bankruptcy. And that was I started working there in 2000, so 20 years ago. And they filed for Chapter 11 the following year. And so I've seen a lot of, I think like 2 major economic downturns in my career. And finding ways to kind of survive and all that. I've been laid off 3 times before I turned 30, so I know a lot about the unemployment system, or I used to. So yeah, there's been a lot of changes, but kind of risky but fun. And I think going through some of those things shapes my viewpoint and the way I approach even my jobs now. So I'm a little bit more risk adverse and very budget conscious for everything that I do. Again, ask questions. Feel free to ask questions of me as we go around. But one of the things that I wanted to kind of lead into was in my career, I've been really lucky to kind of focus on a lot of different areas of marketing. When I joined Fortress IQ, it's an AI startup. That's where I met Elizabeth Middleman. So that's why I'm here today talking to you. We did AI software for very large companies. And I was a team of 1 there. I've been a team of 1 in the past. So I was doing everything marketing. And then, whereas at Adobe, I was very specialized. And so I've been lucky enough to do both things and kind of dabble in a lot of different areas. And as my career grows, there's often times where you're kind of looking at, well, where would I want to focus and where maybe is my skill set best going to be applied if I decide to do a career in marketing. So that's kind of what I wanted to do in our activity and discussion. Before I do that, is there any questions about anything? Oh, also, you'll see the slides are branded for Appify. That's my current company. We actually, we do mobile apps for and kind of apps for the growing mobile workforce. And we target companies of all sizes, but a lot of smaller to mid-market companies. So I've been there, yeah, again, just over a month or so. So that's why you'll see the slides are branded that way. All right. So I want this to be really interactive and kind of more of a discussion, but I thought it would be kind of a fun activity for us to do today. You know, just kind of take a couple minutes to just brainstorm all the different kind of focus areas of marketing. You can write them down if you want, or just kind of keep it in your head, but just think about all the different areas of marketing that you guys have been learning about in your classes and write a few down. And I thought we'd review and discuss, because each one of them kind of has a unique kind of, you know, personality, if you will, for each one. And we don't have to be super silent. You can brainstorm out loud if you want as well. And as we're kind of going through and thinking about this for the next couple minutes, my view of marketing is I kind of look at it as two sides of this one coin, which is on the one side, you have sort of this like corporate marketing kind of side to it, where, you know, it's really responsible for the brand and the image and how the company is perceived by everyone that it interacts with. So the customers, the partners, the investors, you know, the consumers. And then on the other side, you have more of like how marketing works with sales and, you know, all of the different activities associated with getting sales what they need and making sure that they can close deals and grow our revenue. If that helps.
Can we share right now, or are we allowed to?
Oh yeah, I mean, let's does everyone have like kind of like more than 3? I'll take that as like a yes. I think there's, you know, it'll spur some ideas along the way as well. Do you want to share your list? Whoever just asked that question?
Sure. Okay, so 3 different types of marketing that I have experienced myself with is in terms of digital marketing, because that's the only one I can really speak on, is SEO, search engine optimization, which is like a ranking kind of situation on the Google search engine. I've also done a little bit of copywriting for like a company's kind of social media posts. And the third thing I would say, the different type of marketing I've done is attended like, experimented with Google Analytics, or just analytics in general. So those are 3 different types I've experimented with.
Awesome. Yeah. And some of those are on my list and bucketed in different ways. And my list is by no means the end all be all. There's no right or wrong. There's so many different areas, as we will kind of come to find out. So I'm going to just start digging in, but definitely feel free to interject. And if you did write any of these down, I'd love to hear it. And one of the first one I have is almost kind of funny, because it can also be its own separate category in large companies, especially. They will often work, you know, hand in hand with marketing, but in a smaller company, they kind of roll up under one bucket as well. But corporate comms is a really fun area and really specialized in a lot of ways. Many people, you know, are corporate communications majors as well. So outside of just marketing, really focusing in. But that's everything from, you know, PR, press releases, getting news and media to write about you, getting quoted in articles, press mentions. You know, there's more of a focus on thought leadership. So things like the CEO maybe having conversations, and it's marketing's job and PR to echo those conversations about what you're going to be doing 1 year, 2 years, 5 years out. I rolled social media under this as well, because it often falls under the PR side, but it's its own category as well. And it's becoming even more and more important as we go through it. So if you had it as a separate category, great, because it is its own thing. I've done it myself at companies that were small, and I've also approved posts, and we've outsourced that at other companies. And then like at Adobe, there was a whole team that did social media for, one product, and we did a lot of campaigns around it. And then analyst relations is a big part of this as well. Like, you may have heard of Gartner or Forrester. Those are kind of two of the bigger firms out there, and companies of all sizes, but especially a lot of the larger companies, pay them to recommend different products and services. And in turn, the companies offering those services have to also pay them. So when I was at Fortress IQ, we paid Gartner between like 35 to 50K a year, which is a lot of money for a startup, to get in front of them, have us write about, have them write about us, have discussions about where the product was going and who was interested in buying it. It's a necessity, and kind of, they call it like the analyst tax if you're in a startup, because you often you have no choice but to pay the money. But it can be really valuable and useful as well. But the conversations that you have with analysts can be really interesting and forward thinking. Go ahead. Someone had a question?
Yeah, I had a question about analyst relations. Does it kind of relate to like research and like quantitative and qualitative research, or is it more along the lines of something else?
It can be, yeah. There's a lot of it is around, doing the research. If you're thinking about quantitative and qualitative research on like customers, that can also fall under kind of product marketing, because sometimes you're really digging into who your customers are and your buyers. So I'm not sure if that answers your question, but I think that can be sometimes its own area, but it would often overlap with some of these other areas too. If that answers your question.
I think that's like, it could be applied to a lot of different places in like marketing.
Totally, yeah, absolutely. And then I have demand gen, so, or often interchanged with lead generation, but this is kind of what I was saying about the opposite side of the coin. There's like kind of the corporate comms side and corporate marketing side, and then there's often this sort of like field side where you're working very closely with sales and generating leads for them. I have SEO and SEM under this bucket, but it's, again, could be its own bucket separately. There are firms out there that specialize in SEO and SEM, and we've paid them quite a bit of money to do just that, because whoever mentioned about digital marketing, just knowing how to get ranked higher on Google is such a very complex, nuanced thing that companies that specialize in just that and can make very good money doing that. And if you get really detailed into Google Analytics, you can make a whole career out of that, and you do very well. Paid advertising, the previous two companies I worked at saw a lot of success with doing especially paid advertising and like paid social media posts on LinkedIn. So I kind of bucket all those areas underneath. It's changed a lot since I focused on demand gen too. We're able to get a lot more focused and granular on who we're reaching out to and with what messaging, and a lot more personalized. So the idea of account-based marketing, or ABM, didn't even exist when I was first doing demand gen like 15 years ago, 20 years ago. It's fairly new and really exciting to be able to get to that level of granularity. And there's probably tons more things in here that we haven't even, that could fall under this bucket as well. Anyone else have this as on their list? Oh, Colton, did you have a question?
Yeah, for ABM, what do you mean by ABM? Like specifically, like what do you do?
So account-based marketing is really the idea of saying like, who is our ideal customer and what messaging and what value statements are going to resonate with them, and really targeting and honing in your programs on finding those people. And it's very much in line with what I do right now in product marketing. But if you think of like, okay, well, if I'm selling to, like, maybe it's a certain industry, and then you can sort of, really target in a certain industry and say, okay, well, this industry's biggest concerns are around these areas, and you develop content and messaging and email blasts and, different things, even social media posts that really target those areas.
So it's kind of like the personalization part of marketing, like for like for example, for like this Target, and then you had like one account, like you'd market specific products to that account, right? Is that what ABM is?
Yeah, and a lot of times you're working with sales to say, what are your top 100 accounts you're trying to get into that you've had trouble with, and let's do a campaign around just those folks. And so very much working hand in hand with sales to really target those areas that are very specific. And then there's companies that have whole products and solutions out there to do just that for ABM, or they'll say like, oh, we have a whole module that if you give us your top 50 or top 100 accounts, we can go reach out to specific people in those companies and target them as well. So there's like vendors that just do ABM, and there's now tools being built like for your marketing technology that handle ABM as well. Oh, okay, 10 minutes remaining, so let me keep going then. Asset creation and writing. You'll notice I didn't even put video in here, which is obviously a huge part of what we do now especially, but every type of asset you can think of, it's all, under this bucket. I think someone said content generation or content writing. Pretty simple, this is all the same. It's, just every type of asset you would need to reach out to folks, everything from white papers to, product briefs and customer case studies and, different things like that, blog posts. I've written so many blog posts for myself and I've ghostwritten them. And then how it goes into design and layout and production. So those folks who said they were interested in design, I had a graphic designer at Fortress IQ who reported to me, and she was so busy. It was like, there was always something for her to do in terms of making sure that all of our content was telling the right story visually, as is almost even more important than what's being written down. Field marketing and events. This one is can be a really fun one. I was lucky enough to travel all over the world in my jobs that I've had, and when we can do that again, fingers crossed we can do that again. But it also includes virtual events as well. But I think especially if you're just starting out, like this can be a really fun area, and two things here I think that are really great, other than travel, because obviously that's really fun and exciting, and being able to travel on the company's dime is nice. There's a lot of perks to this. I've gone all over the world. But the other two things that really helped my career especially were, overcoming my fear of public speaking. So I've done a ton of speaking ops at different events, both online or virtual, like webinars, and being at trade shows and speaking in front of large groups, and also getting in front of the customer. So you're really then having that one-on-one kind of firsthand experience of finding out, what are they challenged with, what are they looking to solve, what problems are they having. And it's been really nice to get that experience and interaction with the customers. And you also are often getting very firsthand experience with your own sales teams, right? Because they're traveling with you to these events, and you can work together to figure out how best to target your customers. Product marketing, which is where I focus now, it can mean a lot of different things to various size companies, but at its core, it's really about honing in on what the exact statements and value statements are for your buyers and for your products. So at my company now, we have several different smaller apps, and we have a giant platform of apps that you can buy. And so what are really, what's going to make it compelling for people to want to buy our product? And what are those different messaging statements and talking points that I can give like our sales team to help them have better phone calls? We had a whole like a half-an-hour meeting yesterday even to just talk about email subject lines. Like what's going to be compelling for people to want to click our email. But it involves everything from also competitive research or industry research. And one of you mentioned quantitative and qualitative. It can often be a little bit more technical as well, because your counterpart is on the product and engineering sides, and you're working with them to figure out what the new features of the product are going to be, and how do we tell that story. So it can be a really fun area to work on. Right now I'm looking into like what are those ideal target customers, and getting really granular on identifying who our target buyers are. So it's been a really fun area for me to focus on. Marketing operations also is important. Everything on the back end. I often think this is like a thankless job a lot of times because that person isn't as noticed, but they're in the back end making sure that everything works right. And if you can, if you're a data-driven like person and you want to learn about all the things technology, having a cool MarTech stack and knowing about all that, working often very much hand in hand with the demand gen folks, doing detailed reporting, looking at how you score different folks who are coming to the website and interacting with your content, how you would put together a targeted program for nurturing these folks, and how often do you reach out to them via email, and putting them through different streams of lead gen, very much hand in hand with the ABM strategies you might be implementing, doing that. So definitely folks who are very data driven and love digging into technology, your Salesforce, your HubSpot, your Marketo, Pardot, other things, WordPress. And they're responsible for making sure that everything happens without a hitch. If you do a webinar, they are going to make sure that the webinar is running smoothly and organized and everything. And oftentimes they don't get as much credit as they deserve. And then finally, for my list, which is by no means a complete list at all, again, no right or wrong answers here, partner marketing. So how would you work with partners and co-sell, and how do you message that differently than your own stuff on its own? And I've worked on joint partner press releases, joint programs, webinars, creating co-branded assets, making sure that they have maybe partner portal access, which would also then you'd be working with a marketing operations person on to make sure that they're downloading the right version of your logo and using your brand in according to your brand standards and guidelines, things like that. But it can be a very big part and its own area of focus, very much so. And you're working with the business development teams and the sales teams, as well as you're working directly with the partners themselves, and often have a counterpart that you'd be working with. So it can be a fun area of focus as well. I'm going to stop there for a second. And did anyone have anything different or similar? Or
I put something about like sustainable marketing. Yeah,
that came up in our last session too. I like that idea so much because I think, especially like I worked on some of that with Adobe. If there's any, the incoming workforce, like you guys, being the next generation of workers to enter the field, marketing for good and working with companies that not only are offering you a good product that you need, but also are good companies to work with and are morally and, like not breaking any laws, it's going to be really important. And around sustainability, what does that mean to different companies, and how are they contributing to a better environment and a better world? And if you can find those stories and messaging, that can be a really great way to, we talked about buzz marketing as well in the last session. Like that can be a great way to get your story told and, have so many great campaigns and social media around that. Anyone else? Okay, well, I know we don't have a ton of time left, but I wanted to just kind of, I'm gonna do this. I just wanted to just have a Q&A session in our last few minutes. Feel free to ask me anything related or unrelated to the session today. And also just wanted to make sure you can find me on LinkedIn. Feel free to message me separately if you want as well. But yeah, happy to answer any questions in our remaining few minutes. I'm going to stop sharing so we can see each other.
Did you feel like you were always going to end up in like product marketing?
No, I fell into it by accident. A lot of the last two jobs I actually had, and so I onboarded remotely, at this new company, are all through relationships I've built. So the last two companies, the one that I know Elizabeth from, I knew the CEO, so he was a personal friend. And this last company I was brought in by an employee that I worked with at another startup actually. And they reached out and said, and we've remained friends, you know, over the years. And he was like, hey, we need product marketing help. Are you interested? And at the time I was like, yeah, I might be interested in hop and ship again. So, but no, I fell into marketing by accident. I think living in the Bay Area and Silicon Valley, you know, it becomes like a pretty easy place to job hunt. But
Did you start off at an ad agency or like a company straight up from college?
yeah, so I joined a software company when I was like 22. That was my first job in marketing. But I had worked at I worked for actually an agency, a creative agency that kind of specialized in like production style video graphics. And so I was interning there, or not interning. I did a small like kind of, oh, we're leaving the breakout room, but I'll finish my sentence. I did a small project for them. So I worked for them for about 3 months, helping them with some different things. And I learned a few things along the way. Like I picked up how to, you know, I taught myself how to use Microsoft Excel. Now it's Google Sheets or whatever, but all the things that you would kind of need for just a basic office job. Like I can now, you know, I know how to manage my email and I know how to manage like, you know, doing different things. So that was, you know, it helped for sure to get started.
Thank you so much. We'll see you all in the main room.
Yeah, thanks guys so much. I hope you found this valuable.
See you guys. Thank you very much.
Okay, there we go.
Okay, welcome back, everyone. I hope that you all enjoyed your sessions with your panelists today, and we hope that each breakout room and group activity was helpful and sparked some insightful conversations for your future goals and your current aspirations. At this moment, we want to give a very, very big thank you to our panelists, Beth, Courtney, Karen, Christine, Monica. Thank you so, so much. We greatly appreciate you and you coming in, providing your time and your experience to the USF community and the Marketing Club.
Thank you again to not only our panelists, but to all of our members and students of USF for attending. This event has